Hey everybody, Dr. Jeff Williams with Creekstone Integrated Care right here in Amarillo, Texas, coming to you with this week's topic called, Is it dangerous for chiropractors to work on my neck? And this is why doctors that tell their patients to never let a chiropractor touch their necks, this is why they've got it all wrong. It is common to have a new patient come into our office with neck pain and they desperately want relief. It's also common for them to be scared to death to have a chiropractor adjust or pop their neck. They want relief, but they've been told things that would scare anyone on the planet, scare the bejesus out of you, right? Not only are we dealing with things that these patients have been told before, but we're also dealing with the Hollywood factor. So let me explain that. That means that most people in the U.S. have seen Rambo movies, they've seen Chuck Norris movies, or just about any other action hero movie. And so these heroes are sneaking up on the unsuspecting target from behind, kind of like a stealthy little tiger emerging from the brush, and bam! Crack, crack, crack. They jump on them from behind and they twist their neck in some grotesque, god-awful way, killing the enemy instantly before moving on to the next bad guy that they need to dispose of. So those movies have done the chiropractic profession no favors whatsoever. In all honesty, they do the patients that suffer from headaches and neck pain no favors either. Mostly because they scare them from getting the help that they need. The truth is that under normal conditions, it's extraordinarily safe for a trained chiropractor or osteopath, for that matter, to adjust your neck in order to encourage proper movement, to increase the proprioceptive input in the region, to modulate the pain, kind of like an ibuprofen, like an analgesic. And it increases the blood flow at the segmental level. All of these effects help people begin recovering from sore and stiff necks as well as headaches. Now, have you ever watched a UFC match where one fighter has the other in a guillotine move or a rear naked chokehold? There's another move called the anaconda where the fighters are putting the other fighters into very precarious and dangerous chokeholds and submission holds. And if those sorts of actions don't cause strokes, well, how on earth can one imagine that a gentle, safe neck adjustment by a trained professional could ever cause such a thing? I mean, let's just think about it and keep it in some sort of context. It doesn't happen, by the way. So what about people walking around popping their own necks all day, every day? What about that? And while there are a handful of reported cases of some significant adverse events from people walking around popping their own necks, if it were that dangerous, people would be falling out right and left and the ER would be full of these patients suffering strokes and artery tears from popping their own necks. They're not inundated by these people. Okay, it happens maybe a handful of times over the course of a couple of years, and just imagine how many people are walking around popping their own necks. So we've had several patients come to see us for low back issues, and they make sure to tell me that their family doctor told them to never let a chiropractor touch their neck. Now, why would that be exactly? Well, let me start here briefly. Years ago, back in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, the American Medical Association, in cooperation with all of the little state medical associations, they waged a campaign, a war against chiropractors, essentially, in an effort to wipe the profession of chiropractic off of the face of the earth. It was so obvious that the chiropractic profession was under attack that chiropractors won a lawsuit against the American Medical Association at the Supreme Court level, proving that the American Medical Association was guilty of violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. In fact, a federal judge ruled that the American Medical Association had engaged in a lengthy, systematic, meaning from the top to the bottom, successful and unlawful boycott designed to restrict cooperation between medical doctors and doctors of chiropractic in order to eliminate the profession of chiropractic as a competitor in the United States healthcare system. Well, there it is for you, folks. And part of the campaign was to convince people that chiropractors can give patients strokes and potentially kill them. Well, if you can demonize your competition, well, then you have a chance of winning. And today in 2020, things are much, much better. There's a much better environment of cooperation and working together that exists between chiropractors and the medical profession, but not usually the older folks in the medical profession that were a part of that campaign or influenced by that campaign. That dogma, that old, outdated, archaic dogma, that's still there. And the damage was done decades ago, and us chiropractors, we still must deal with the repercussions of it, even though it's getting better. Now, to begin with the rest of this and the research stuff, let's just ask the experts the question, okay? Research by PhDs, medical doctors, and universities have all concluded that the research does not support the idea that chiropractors directly cause strokes. The Rand Institute estimates something bad arising directly from a chiropractic visit at somewhere around 1 in 1 to 2 million visits. That's a lot. Now let's put 1 in 1 to 2 million into some sort of perspective, shall we? The odds of being struck and killed by lightning are about 1 in 174,426, according to the National Safety Council. The odds of being told to come on down on The Price is Right, 1 in 36. Did you realize your chance was that good of being called down on The Price is Right? How about, did you know that being born with more than 5 fingers or toes on one hand, that's 1 in 500. To have six, that's crazy. The odds of dying from a firearms assault are 1 in 113. I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. How about this one? The odds of winning an Oscar, this is really cool, are 1 in 11,500. That's pretty good odds of winning an Oscar. Would you have ever sat around watching the Oscars dreaming, I've got a 1 in 11,500 chance of being on that stage accepting an Oscar? Of course not. Yet we're talking about the Rand Institute putting an adverse event directly from a chiropractic adjustment at 1 in 1 to 2 million. Now, do you see what I'm saying? There are over 70,000 chiropractors in the United States, maybe even up to 80,000 by now. If these chiropractors were really out there in the country causing strokes all over the place, all over the time, you would absolutely know about it. 60 Minutes would have done a big story on it. 2020, maybe even Dateline with the creepy music. Maybe. The truth is, it's not happening. So let's briefly cover what some really good research papers have to say about it all. A recent comprehensive review in 2017 by Chibi et al. Concluded the reality is, number one, there is no firm scientific basis for direct causality between cervical spinal manipulative therapy and cervical arterial dissection or a tear or a stroke. And number two, that the internal carotid artery moves freely within the cervical pathway, while 74% of cervical spinal manipulative therapies are conducted in the lower cervical spine, where the vertebral artery also moves freely. And number three, that active daily life consists of multiple cervical movements, cervical means neck, multiple cervical movements, including rotations that do not trigger cervical arterial dissection, as is true for a range of physical activities. And number four, that cervical manipulation and or cervical mobilization, just getting some good healthy movement in there, goes beyond the physiological limit but remains within the anatomical range, which theoretically means that the artery should not exceed failure strain. These factors underscore the fact that no serious adverse event was reported in a large prospective national survey conducted in the United Kingdom that assessed all adverse events in 28,807 chiropractic treatment consultations, and in that was included 50,276 cervical spine neck manipulations. 50,276 manipulations, not one adverse event. That's one of the newer papers, but there's many, many more of these papers. I don't want to bore you by going through all of them, but I want to talk about one more, because one of the biggest ones done on this specific topic was done by J.D. Cassidy in 2008. Now, Dr. Cassidy underwent a 9-year study, 9 years, that took into account approximately 109 million person years for patients that went to both chiropractors and the primary family doctors. They noticed that patients had strokes at the same instance or the same prevalence after having visited either type of practitioner. Didn't matter which one they went to, they were still having strokes. And we know well that family doctors do not manipulate the neck or any other region of the skeleton. So why would their patients have strokes at the same rate as they would have after visiting a chiropractor? Especially if chiropractors are causing strokes all the time. Well, the conclusion was that patients are going to both types of doctors after already having suffered the stroke, and now they've got symptoms. The practitioners were not causing the strokes. So these types of strokes, or arterial tears, can have symptoms as simple and as innocent as just a headache, or potentially a headache and one-sided neck pain. Physicians in an emergency room miss these types of incidences all the time. And it can be very, very hard to diagnose these without advanced imaging. And you certainly cannot perform MRIs with contrast or CTs on every single person that comes into your office for a chiropractor or a family doctor. When they come in with something as simple as a headache or a neck pain, it's just not financially feasible. So to an untrained practitioner, many of these little arterial tears or pre-stroke things, they can slip by completely undiagnosed. Then the condition can deteriorate so that the patient goes to the emergency room later. Well, at the ER, the doctors and nurses ask if they've been to a chiropractor or had their neck worked on. And at this point, the correlation is very lazily made that the chiropractor caused the stroke. Well, it could have been something as easy as going and having your hair done at the beauty salon and having your head in the bowl. That could cause it. A fall could cause it. A fender bender could cause it. But it gets blamed on the chiropractor many, many, many times. So you should have guessed by now that the truth is that the patient went to the family doctor or they went to their chiropractor already having the stroke in progress. It was subtle, and the practitioner just simply missed it. And then it deteriorated to the point of seeking treatment at the ER. And neither of these practitioners is out there causing strokes themselves. That is the most important and the most vital thing to understand. They're not causing them, and these things are easy to miss. So it can look like they caused them. Now, with that being said, if there's been recent trauma or recent onset of the worst headache ever experienced, especially in a younger person, well, a chiropractor or a family doctor, well, they should be suspicious and they should try to look a little bit deeper. Although very hard to diagnose, a trained professional will have a better chance of catching one of these things in progress, a much better chance of catching one of these than a non-trained professional. There are multitudes of quality, high-level research papers proving that not only do chiropractors cause no harm as a general rule, but in fact, spinal manipulative therapy utilized by chiropractors is indeed beneficial for headaches, neck pain, back pain, and joint pain. Big time beneficial, as a matter of fact. So let us just for a moment assume that chiropractors are actually dangerous. Of course, we know they're not. I just covered that. But let's assume that they are, just for argument's sake. What would be the alternative to get rid of headaches and neck pain then? Well, data obtained from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that more than 300 people die annually as a result of acetaminophen poisoning, Tylenol. Beginning in 2006, according to the CDC, the number of people who died after accidentally taking too much Tylenol, acetaminophen, surpassed the number who died from intentionally overdosing to commit suicide. NSAIDs, NSAIDs such as ibuprofen and acetaminophen, things of that nature, they cause at least 16,000 deaths per year and send 100,000 people to the emergency room in the United States every year when taken as directed. 16,000 deaths, over 100,000 ER visits, y'all. 1 in 1 to 2 million, okay? Just last year, over 71,000 people died of opioid-related overdoses. So, again, 1 in 1 to 2 million. I don't know. Anyways, let me just be honest and sum it up here for you. Research backs up the incredible effectiveness of spinal manipulative therapy used so commonly by chiropractors and osteopaths for neck pain and headaches. At the same time, lots of research says there are zero links between spinal manipulative therapy and strokes, and little evidence to support any other significant adverse effect. Therefore, when a doctor or a nurse, or any other medical professional for that matter, or really any other person on the entire planet, tells you to never let a chiropractor touch your neck, that simply informs you that they are not quite up on the specific research for that specific topic, and they probably should not speak on it without a comprehensive stroll through the literature. Attempting to fall back on just one's perceived experience in the research world is just relying on anecdotal evidence, and that is simply not how it works. It's not enough. Anecdotal evidence is not evidence at all. So fortunately for all of us, the work has already been done. The questions have already been answered. It is exceedingly safe to visit your chiropractor and have them work on that neck pain or have them get rid of that headache for you. So I hope that answers the question. I've done a lot of work on this. There's so much more to share, but I didn't want this to be a 2-day seminar. So if you have any questions, just send us an email at creekstonecare@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer those. Also, if you're having neck or back or joint pain or headaches, just give us a holler at my office. Our website is creekstonecare.com. Our website is www.creekstonecare.com, and our phone number is 806-355-3000. We're happy to help you.